3, and we are raising money for Child's Play. And all of you watching, you have absolutely blown it out of the park for the marathon. We have hit several goals. We started with a humble goal of $1,000. We've already hit over 1,500, and we're trying to hit 2K by the end of today. I believe in you. I think we can do it. And we're starting it off strong as well. A $30 donation from Pudding Witch saying, Day 3 hype. Good luck to all the runners. And with that, we are ready for Dyanketo with Cyber Shadow, so go ahead and take it away.
Hello. Hi, I'm the DJ. I fairly new to the speedrunning thing. Started speedrunning this game since launch, basically, and I'm very excited to see Dion play this game. It's a speedrunning without some last-minute technical issues. Well, I think we're going to start off with a new addition to the game, something that was introduced in 1.0, and that is the change in color scheme, which there was a poll for, and which color won? I don't... You can choose a couple different colors. Well, apparently green one here.
Yeah, so green did win the incentives there. Also, sorry, I had my microphone muted when we started there, so you guys didn't hear me. Well, I'll just kind of read that off again. So just this game here was made by Mecha Skull and was published by Yacht Club Games. It's kind of like a Ninja Gaiden-like game. We start off early on just having the ability to slash and jump. But as we go further through the game and beat more of the chapters and the bosses, we will be unlocking new abilities that will help us progress and go fast and do all that fun ninja stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's not very much we can do at the very start to go faster, as we don't have the ability to like dash or anything just yet. It's just walking or running, I guess. But we do have like a couple of small time saves we can do. One of which is we can do what's called ledge boosting, where if you jump right at the edge of a ledge, you'll get like a little bit of a speed boost as it pushes you forward. It's just taking advantage of how the game's coyote jump works.
Yeah, it saves roughly like 3 frames per jump. It's not a huge deal, but they do add up to a couple seconds over the course of a run. So.
Yeah, they're not like largely essential for getting a good time in this game, but they definitely add up over time, especially throughout multiple chapters. It becomes a little bit less important when we get dash. Okay, so we're heading up to our first boss here in just a moment. we are going to be fighting a Smasher.
Yeah.
So this boss is interesting in that if you're playing this the first time and you're not really paying too much attention, you can get crushed by this guy. He instantly kills you if he lands on top of you.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened to many players.
It totally hasn't happened to any speedrunner that's played this game like 100+ attempts. No way, not at all.
Not at all. So,
Also,
no, the fight itself is pretty simple. You just wait until the Smasher goes down and you hit the core in the middle, and that's basically all you have to do.
so this room here is pretty interesting as well. This is a cycle-based room, so Dyanketo is going to be trying to get to the end of this room very quickly in order to save a cycle.
Getting a little bullied by the rust flies there.
Yeah, unfortunately, rust flies were big bullies, so we are probably not going to make that fast cycle in this room. But we can probably make a good second cycle. We'll see here.
Grabbing some safety health and a blade extend. Don't blame him. It's not a PB attempt. It's a marathon run, so...
Yeah, Blade Extend is actually a really nice weapon. It doesn't actually increase your damage, but it extends the, as it might sound like, it extends the range of your weapon. And you'll end up actually using that against one of the mini bosses we'll be fighting soon anyways. That'll be in Chapter 2.
And there's another faster cycle we can make here that makes use of something we call ledge clipping. It's if you, sadly he didn't make it, but if you approach the edge of a semi-solid platform and it looks like you just barely won't make it, the game's like, close enough, and clips you onto it anyway.
Interestingly enough, that actually only works on a 60 FPS setup, though. If you are running on like 120 frames per second, it doesn't work. So a lot of runners will opt to play this game with their frame rate limited to 60 FPS so that they can get ledge clips, which will let you save a lot of time throughout the run.
Also, Carter, update the game on the layout.
Oh, we'll do so. Just a second here.
Yeah, so this is the final boss of Chapter 1, the Operator. Basically, you want to hit him as many times as you can, and ideally you kill him as he jumps up, but it's kind of tight, so sometimes you just have to clip his toenails, as we call it, to get that last bit of damage in.
Interestingly enough about Operator, he'll call you out if you hit him in the back, and he'll say like that was like a dishonorable kill. It's kind of funny.
Well, I didn't even notice that.
So yeah, like we got the Shuriken now. That was the weapon we got from Operator, and we will be making good use of that in Chapter 2. They kind of force you to use it right at the start here to hit this switch so that you can move these platforms over, teaching you how to use the game mechanic.
Yeah.
So this is another pretty heavily cycle-based room. You'll actually see that a lot in this game, where you want to try and take these really long rooms with as tight of a line as possible so that you can make some pretty difficult cycles. Being pretty careful here. If you fall in those trash compactors, you'll end up just instantly dying.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate way to die.
Managed to get through without a death, though, and we're just going to hit a checkpoint in just a second.
Yeah.
That's probably the scariest part of Chapter 2, is the very beginning of it.
Yeah. And now I'm coming up in probably the most annoying room in Chapter 2, the fly room, where you have to hit this nest, and every time you hit it, one of these small rust flies spawns and just chases you. And if you don't manage your rust flies properly, they can just kill you a lot and lose a lot of time here.
So when we ended up beating the rust flies there, we ended up making this laser activate. This laser is also an instant kill, and Diane just there a moment ago showed that you can actually damage boost through the laser to not die to it. So it's a pretty risky strat, but it looks awesome when you do it.
Yeah. Saves only a couple seconds though, so...
Alright, so now we ended up buying the Blade Extend, and we're going to use that on the Chapter 2 mini-boss Laser Brain. It makes it a little easier to hit this boss's core, which you end up doing bonus damage to them when you hit them in the core.
Yeah, interestingly enough, this is the only boss with like a weak spot where it does extra damage.
Very clean laser brain kill.
Yeah.
Something we should have also mentioned when we killed Smasher earlier is that one of the orbs that the bosses may sometimes drop will end up giving you a full health bar. When you're playing through this game just regularly, there's some health upgrades that are scattered throughout the game, and you have to usually collect like 3 of them to get a health bar. The boss health bars, they're pretty generous. They'll just give you a health bar straight up, it's really nice.
Yeah, it also acts as like a health refill, so that's also really nice. And this is the first auto-scroller of the game, the Rustfly elevator. It may look easy, but if you lose focus or don't pay attention to anything, you can very easily just accidentally bump into these spikes. And these spikes are insta-kills, so you can lose like up to a minute here if you're not careful.
Anyone that also played this game at launch might recognize that this is a little bit easier than it was at launch. This room was littered with rust flies everywhere at launch, and it was pretty unforgiving. Like, if you ended up bumping into a rust fly, you would most likely get bumped into spikes and just die, and it was pretty painful because the elevator's pretty long. But we managed to get through it pretty quickly. No real issues. And after this very small hallway we're going to be going into here, we're going to hit a checkpoint. We're going to have another cycle-based room. We're going to try and get through this room without too many issues so that when we get to the end of the room, the garbage compactors will end up being lined up properly for us to climb up to the top towards the next boss. Getting that little bit of safety health there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the not killing any rust flies feat is also a lot easier now that they're not like a million. Like the rust fly elevator, it was bad enough without not being able to kill them, but that feat was brutal.
So we ended up getting a slightly slower cycle for the garbage there, but that ended up being alright. So here we have Smasher. Smasher has some different patterns that they can end up doing, but if you stand very close to them, they'll always do the same exact pattern. So the first time they'll do like smash followed by bullet, followed by smash, and then jump. And then they'll do it in reverse after that. When you get them low enough, they'll jump back and you get the rest of the damage in, and then Scrambler will jump out of their little mech there and start shooting projectiles at you. And very quick work made of Smasher there by Dyanketo. Very well done.
Yeah, that was a pretty clean fight. And now we get our second upgrade, Rising Fire, which is an upward slash. And if you have SP, it also shoots 3 fireballs into the air.
Yeah, so this would actually be a good time to mention how SP works in this game. So a lot of your abilities that you're going to end up unlocking have a powered up version and a non-powered up version. So, for example, the shurikens that we got earlier, they require SP to throw. With the addition of 1.4, which is the most recent patch, they actually added like a mini shuriken that gets thrown now if you have no SP. That wasn't in the game originally. For Rising Fire, the ability we just unlocked, you'll end up firing some fireballs up directly above you. And if you have no SP, you'll just kind of do like an upward slash.
Yeah, the limp shuriken, as it's called, it's actually kind of useless, aside from like one very specific scenario. I think it even has a shorter range than your sword. So.
Yeah, I think it was mostly added by Mechaskull at the time. Sorry, I just want to say I think it was added by Mechaskull because some players were confused. They didn't attack when they tried to throw a shuriken.
Yeah, it's mostly a visual thing. Yeah, so Dion didn't have enough health left to do some damage boost for this section, so he just quit the menu and get a health refill.
Managed to get the ledge clip that time too.
Yeah, because we do like a whole bunch of damage boosts here. This can be a very dangerous section to get through.
I just want to say, the soundtrack for this game is an absolute banger, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much every chapter has really good music. This one's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is probably like most people's favorite.
This is the Cat Jam song right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not think there's a single track that I don't like. So.
This room here, we're going to do a couple damage boosts just to get through it quickly, avoiding most enemies either jumping over them or killing them. There's nothing really cycle-based here, so mostly just some clean movement. Using the shuriken a couple times just to kill some enemies that'll be ahead of us. Now this upcoming screen is honestly really difficult. There's a lot of things that go on in this screen. It's also incredibly long. So you have these mines that will explode in the direction that the flashing lights are on them. So you try and take those out before you run into them so that they will not explode in your face.
Very nice damage boost, by the way. That guy is often in your way when you're trying to get up, so damage boosting there is pretty difficult.
Oh no, we got 1 health.
Oh.
Oh. Come on, Diane. Okay, we're safe. That was a little scary. We didn't hit a checkpoint yet, so we got the checkpoint now.
Yeah.
We are safe. We're back at full health. And
yeah, that's probably the most punishing part, to die in checkpoint, because that's probably one of the longest rooms without checkpoint.
Yeah, that part is absolutely terrifying. So that was Hunter Tank we just took down there. You have to kind of hit the core, and then you'll be able to expose the boss and just be able to take them out. Pretty clean kill. So as you can see, this room is still not over yet. There is a boss in the middle of the room, and there is some enemies that are like all these enemies that are firing here are based on like a timing, or like a room timing. So depending on how long it took you to kill the boss, they can be firing at different times. It can be a bit of a pain. And then we have another room here that's fairly long, difficult to pull off correctly.
Now, coming up to something the community calls the snipe, there's basically a very small window where you can throw that shuriken and hit that enemy. So that's very nice that Dian hit that. And if you don't hit it, those enemies can be in your way and shoot bombs down at you. And if you are unfortunate enough, they knock you right into the instant death pit.
So far, a really clean run, though. This run is, like I said, it's pretty unforgiving. It's very easy to die in this speed run. I don't think I've actually managed to pull off a deathless run despite I put like so much time into this game.
Yeah, no, deathless runs are extremely rare. Even at top level, you don't see them very often.
Yeah, and you'll see why, especially when we hit the later chapters for this game. The later chapters are especially brutal. So just have a couple more ledge clips as we're climbing up here, and we're heading towards our next boss. Our next boss is going to be Biohunter. So we're going to end up picking up the Swag Blade from the shop here, using 50 essence to buy that, and we're going to use that to hit him when he's directly above us, where he's out of our reach with the sword currently. And we're looking to try and get him taken down into the next phase before he transitions again. Didn't manage to get it, but that's okay. We got a pretty good kill anyways.
Yeah, got a little bit of extra damage in as he tried to fly away, so that's nice. Also, sorry to bother you about the layout again, but I don't think the estimate is correct.
The estimate isn't correct?
Yeah, the 145.
Oh, you're right. Let me fix that real quick. Sorry. I don't know how that ended up being an R45. I think it was still Waldo's. Okay, so I don't actually remember what this ability is called. I just call it the down stab. It's kind of like the pogo ability of this game.
Yeah, I call it the pogo. I think it's called the airstrike.
Okay, thank you. That is what it's called. Yeah, airstrike. So this ability is really cool because you have the ability, like, after you've used it, if you still have SP, to kind of like instantly drop down to directly below you. You kind of do like this lightning bolt attack type thing. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. We'll end up using it here going down this waterfall, and you just kind of, okay, we didn't end up doing it there, but you kind of just noom right down to the bottom, and like the screen barely even keeps up with you.
Yep.
But
Now onto the monkey shrine. This part is basically a race to the top against a monkey. It's pretty easy. Waits around a lot.
Shoutouts to Mecha Skull, by the way, for making it so that the swag blade does not hit the lanterns here. This was absolutely a pain in the butt to bring swag blade to before, because if you did, it would destroy all the lanterns that you were supposed to like use to bounce off of. Yeah,
and especially since Dion is playing on the PlayStation. He didn't get that ability until like a few weeks ago with the 1.04 patch.
It still destroys the boxes, though. So you have to be careful not to hit those if you're using them as a platform.
Yeah, but luckily they're not nearly as numerous, so they're still a lot. Setting up your swag plate so they don't hit them is a lot easier.
Alright, so now we have the wall slide. The wall slide lets us jump off of walls now, so we're going to be using that a lot. Especially here to escape the waterfall. And we're going to be heading our way into Chapter 4.
Yeah, and Chapter 4 really is a big spike in difficulty. You've seen a couple instant death traps here and there, but Chapter 4 is where they really start to ramp up the use of those.
This is, like, arguably the hardest chapter until you hit, like, I think Chapter 6. There's just so many things that can go wrong here, and it also has one of the harder bosses to deal with, in my opinion, that we will be running into a little bit later.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's probably the hardest, basically, because of all the RNG involved.
Alright, so we ended up hitting the 2 switches in the rooms there to open this door, and then we're going to be dropping down. No SP to do the quick drop there. So that's another thing, is that you do require SP in order to do that, so if you don't have SP, you can't do the fast drop.
I'm sure we'll see it at some point.
Still plenty of opportunities for it.
Yeah.
So this room that we're going into here, we have some floors that will get electrified by these electric orbs that are just kind of dropping down, and we also have these, like, what would you call it? Like a robotics worm?
Yeah.
We have to hit the eye for and make it get out of the way for us. It's another pretty heavy cycle-based room.
Yeah. You can do this a little bit faster with like proper damage boosting. But I think trying to damage boost through these electric walls is harder than a regular damage boost, so I still don't attempt those.
Yeah, you don't have very much time to like actually turn around to get the damage boost in the right direction. So this is our first cyber section here. We actually ended up skipping a little bit of it there, so normally you're supposed to hit all the switches to hit the last switch in that room, but for some reason in that one there, you can just kind of hit the one switch and be on your merry way. You can just leave, and it'll open up the gate regardless for you.
Nice use of the pogo to avoid falling in the water there.
We could probably fit in a quick donation here.
Yeah, I think this is a relatively safe area of Chapter 4, so if you have any donations?
I do not, but I'm always happy to plug what we're here doing, because this is a charity marathon after all, and you know, we have Carter Freak with us, our event host, and he wants to raise money for sick children in hospitals to help brighten their day. And that is how Pixels for People came to be. So, everyone watching, please do make sure to wish Carter a very happy birthday during the event.
Even if you don't want to wish me happy birthday, I'm really glad you're all here and taking part in the event and just, you know, making things a bit brighter for kids that are stuck in hospitals. Unfortunately, we had a death there. That room is, again, as you might expect, pretty unforgiving. So we hadn't hit a checkpoint in a bit, and everything around you is just kind of instant death. Like all the spikes you see there are instant death, and there's enemies that do a decent amount of damage too. So you have to be really careful here. And it's all cycle based, so if you end up making mistakes in the early parts of it, you can't do like the normal cycles for this room.
Yeah. You basically have to be perfect if you want to make that cycle. Oh.
Unfortunately, got a upward strike instead of the down stab or the pogo attack.
Like, I wonder how he even did that, since he died as he stood on it. When did he have time to...
It must have been like he pressed the attack button like the moment he stood on it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, this is one of the hardest room in Chapter 4.
So yeah, like all these circling enemies here, they're all on a cycle the moment you enter the room. Depending on how quickly you end up doing it, they don't end up being in your way, but if you end up making any mistakes in the room, they can be a big nuisance and hit you for, I think they're like 2 damage each. So it's pretty painful.
Yeah.
But we ended up hitting a checkpoint now, so we're through the risky room. This room in particular I found pretty obnoxious when I was speedrunning the game, because these squid enemies, they're random, and so is this snake enemy, so they can be a big pain in the butt and kind of get in your way when you don't want them to be.
Yeah, luckily Dion got through that very clean, so no big problems there.
Diane opting to take this room a bit safely. I don't blame them. This room here, normally you would either go along the bottom or you would bounce off of the enemies. But if you end up making mistakes and you get shocked in the water, especially at the health he's at right now, you would end up taking a death.
Yeah, because these electric balls are also on cycle, so depending on how you do the room, those can be in the way and make that room a lot harder than it should be. Now we're finally at the first boss of Chapter 4.
Yeah, so would you like to talk a little bit about the boss that we're coming into here? I'm sure anyone that loves Cyber Shadow has had a lot of fun with this boss.
Yeah. Well, the Mega Dragon is probably the most RNG heavy thing in general in this game. There's a few things he can do. He can spawn to the left or the right. You can, in between phases where you can attack him, he can do either a slow attack or a fast attack. But most importantly, these platforms that spawn, that you have to hit in order to actually stand, those are random as well where they spawn. So it can really be... This fight can go well or terrible, basically just depending on RNG.
Yeah, and the other thing about this fight is like you end up using Rising Fire a lot to do damage to the boss. There's a pogo strat as well, but a lot of runners end up using the Rising Fire strategies. Sometimes the Rising Fires just don't hit the boss, and you end up doing a lot less damage as a result.
Yeah, there's some hitbox jam going on there for sure. I think that was a 4 cycle.
Yeah, it ended up being a 4 cycle. Optimally, you'll get like a 2 cycle if you're really lucky with RNG, but it can be pretty hard to get that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can get the 2 cycle consistently. Deathless 4 cycle is still very decent, so...
Now, I'm pretty sure this crystal's from Final Fantasy and it's just spawning a bunch of ninjas on it. We end up doing this and it's going to unlock our level 2 weapon, so our sword will do a little bit more damage. Some enemies that would normally take 2 hits to die will now die in 1. And we also needed this to open a level 2 gate that is to the left of the boss room. Now, I'm not 100%. I think Dyanketo also does the strat where you use the Charge Blaster, which he has right now. He's going to get a new one. And try and carry that all the way to the next boss. This will end up being used to... or we'll try to end up carrying it mostly through Chapter 5 to do a skip, which saves a decent amount of time and ends up saving you having to go all the way around a pretty long room. So one of the things is if you take damage on the sub-weapon, or like the weapon we bought from the shop, you'll eventually end up losing it. So you can take 3 hits before you end up losing it. You can see the health bar in the top left there. It's got the 2 of 3 right now. Okay, so we end up actually using the shield for Dyanketo.
Yeah. Diane did take 1 hit on his blaster, so taking the shield, which will be at full health, is probably a smarter choice.
So this boss here, we're gonna try to get a 1 cycle. We want to try and kill the boss before they end up closing their eye again. So we ended up getting it. So very, very well done by Dyanketo.
Did take a few hits on the shield, but he still has it, so he's not out of the. He can still make the skip.
Yeah. So this is where it gets a little bit clenchy, because we want to try and carry this 1 health weapon through like the next chapter, like halfway through the next chapter, and it's pretty easy to get hit here.
Yeah, it is a little bit easier with the shield because it can block a lot of projectiles that the blaster won't block. So it's a bit safer to take the shield. But some runners will prefer the charge blaster because you still have it, you don't have to buy a new weapon. And it also saves a little bit of time to not have to go to the shop.
So I guess I'll also mention here, so the weapon the power-up we just unlocked is the parry. So now we have the ability... Oh no, we ended up losing the shield, so we won't be able to get the skip this time. That's okay. It's only about 20 seconds. We ended up losing as a result of that. But okay, so like, as I was explaining, the power-up we just unlocked is the parry. It lets you reflect projectiles back at enemies. Anyone that's familiar with Street Fighter 3 may be familiar with how parry works in this game. You have to tap forward towards the bullet. Once it's about to hit you, and manages to get it just fine. We're going to pick up an SP generator just chilling in some of that purple goop, which is going to let us regenerate SP over time. Normally you wouldn't end up picking that up because you wanted to try and carry the weapon through, but there's no reason not to if you already have lost the weapon.
Yeah.
Another thing about this section in particular is that the save points are pretty relentless here. Actually going back to make sure we don't take a death, because it's a pretty long way back if you end up taking another hit here. But pretty much the majority of save points in this area, with the exception of the one right before the boss, do not actually restore your health at all. So you end up having like 2 health or something like that. When you get there, you're only gonna have 2 health.
Yeah, you actually have to buy the health refill for like 50 essence, which is this game currency.
So this is the room that we would have been trying to carry the power up to. You would have hit a switch on the other side of the door there, and it would have let you just kind of circumvent going throughout this entire room. So it's not a huge deal. It just saves you from having to go through all the way around this room.
Yeah, saves about 20 to 25 seconds, I think. But yeah, not a huge deal. You can still get a great run without it, so... and here we meet, but not fight, the boss of Chapter 5.
Yeah, so here we have Subject Alpha. This is our first introduction to them. They're just gonna smack their head on the ground a couple times and then get upset that we're slashing them in the face and
you saw Dion damage boost or damaging himself on the boss, because in that little cutscene he would normally drain your health to 1, and that takes time. So if you're already at 1 health, it's just faster.
Yeah, and then you end up getting some health refills after that part anyway, so there's not much point in having the health. It just slows you down.
Yeah, if you do still have your sub weapon, you will take the slow way, because you can still use it later in the chapter by opening another door.
Isn't that one of the only exceptions, like basically to taking damage, where you won't lose your sub weapon as well? For that particular section where Subject Alpha is choking you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only place where you can take damage without losing your weapon.
So again, we're gonna pick up an SP generator from the shop here, and we're gonna fight Subject Alpha the first time. This fight can go very, very quickly depending on how good your parries end up going. They didn't end up going very good there, so it looks like Dyan's gonna end up taking a quick restart just to try and get a better fight.
Yeah, also making smart use of the Rising Fires there to get some extra damage in.
Yeah, that was a pretty good fight. The best possible fight, you'll end up killing them when they're still on the right side of the screen, but only lost, I think, maybe like 3 seconds there. It was really good.
Oh yeah, and on Exo, the damage doesn't damage the sub-weapon, like Mini says. But we're not at that section yet, so...
Thankfully there's a... Oh, okay, we're not going to end up getting that. I was going to say there's actually a health refill that's in the goop there, but we don't, I guess, need that. I always end up getting that when I'm playing, just because it's like, usually if you end up taking some damage on the boss there, it can be pretty terrifying running through this part with like 3 health. Especially because there's one part where you end up freeing one of those like orbs, and it can sometimes just kind of follow you the entire way through the entire screen. So it's kind of like terrifying when it's just chasing you and you end up missing a jump and then suddenly it's right on top of you.
So this is Alpha Phase 2. You're just trying to hit this giant eye in the middle, preferably with your parries instead of your sword, because the parries do 1 more damage. And then in this phase you're just pogoing as much as possible. And with like optimal damage you can do that in 1 cycle.
Yeah, the 1 cycle, that is really hard actually. Like,
yeah.
You'd think like, you're mostly just pogoing on the boss, but like it's really hard to get optimal damage there to kill them before they close their eye again.
Yeah, I've done it like once, out of like hundreds of attempts.
I don't think I got it once my entire time running. Alright, so now we're going to be getting pretty much the best ability for any speedrunner ever. We're going to get the ability to dash. So now we get to start really going fast. This is probably where the run picks up the most, and you'll end up seeing why in just a moment. So I guess I'll just go ahead. Sorry.
If you still had your sub-weapon like the shield or the blaster, you could use it to hit that switch there and basically skip freeing that ninja. Saves a little bit of time, but it does require you to do the entire chapter without taking damage, so extremely hard to pull off.
So I'm just going to explain a little bit about how dash works in this game, because it's a little weird. So normal just like dash running doesn't consume SP or anything like that. You can just do that whenever you press the dash button or double tap forward, whatever you end up using for your button controls. And then you have the ability to do a dash attack. The dash attack is faster than just dashing normally, so we end up using that a lot, but there is the no SP version and the SP version. and they both act a little differently. So the SP version, if you dash through an enemy or boxes or anything of the sort, and you end up killing it, you will end up returning or refunding the SP it costs to use the SP version to begin with. If you have no SP, however, and you dash through an enemy, there's no guarantee you're going to end up getting SP at all. You'll end up mostly getting money, and it makes SP routing pretty important here in making sure you have enough SP to dash through different sections without slowing down.
Yeah, because if you dash attack without SP, you also lose your dash speed, so you have to repress the dash button to get your dash speed back.
Yeah, and that can really throw you off if you're not ready for it too. Like if you're just like, oh, I'm gonna be running, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of walking. You're just like, wait, this isn't what I'm expecting. This is a pretty scary room here. Those spikes are instant death.
Yeah, those red lines you see are basically alarm triggers. If you walk through them, they trigger the alarm. They spawn a lot of mines in the giant buzzsaw you saw.
Yeah. That buzzsaw is absolutely terrifying, by the way. That thing will chase you for a long time, and it hits you for 3 health per hit. So we're going into probably my favorite boss of the game, Tunnel Cleaner. This boss, you're going to try and get in some damage whenever he opens his eye. You'll end up using a lot of parrying here to get in the most damage you possibly can. You'll end up using it on like the big projectile he fires out and the smaller ones, and we're also going to be reflecting these robots right back at him too. And they do a lot of damage, as you can see there, just taking out pretty much the entire second health bar. Really well executed by Dyanketo.
Yeah, I find it really hard to line both of them up so they both hit. I usually only get one to hit, and then the eye closes and the other one doesn't hit anymore, and you're left with like 1 HP on the boss. So I find it a really hard trick to pull off.
So
Good job.
Would you like to talk a little bit about Outskirts?
Ooh, this is this is a really hard chapter. It has a lot of instant death spikes as well. These enemies here called knock-knocks basically block your progress until you beat them. That one was relatively easy, but there's another one that's a lot harder coming up soon.
This chapter is arguably one of the hardest chapters in the game. Outside of like Return to Mecha City, because that's like a 10-minute long chapter and it's just a slogfest of really hard screens. This just is absolutely brutal. There's so many different ways you can die. There's so many, like, all the spikes you see below are instant kill. Most of the enemies here will do 2 to 3 damage. Like this door boss, anything that hits you hits for 3 damage, so you die in 3 hits here because you only have 9 health. And
and like there's moving platforms and instant death spikes below. Like one wrong move and you're dead. Luckily the door stays dead, so he doesn't have to do that again. So not a huge time loss there.
Yeah, just as long as the boss, the door boss dies, it's fine. But it can really suck if you're like 1 hit away from killing them, and then it's like, nope, you take 1 more hit and you're just back to the beginning.
Yeah, and now what I find the hardest part of this chapter, the Skull Cave. Trying to squeeze through that gap. Pretty finicky to do. Yeah, and you see these big bubbles here. The bigger ones spawn these skulls that chase you around and also do 3 damage. And it can make, and if you take too long, these skulls will just spawn on their own and chase you around. So if you're too slow, it can really be a problem.
I think these things actually have more aggressive AI than the security robot too. Like they just really chase you down and they go really fast.
Yeah, I think the buzzsaw has like some momentum where you can kind of trick it into moving in order to avoid you, but these are like a lot more aggressive. Sadly lost his SP dispenser there. you do preferably want to keep that SP dispenser until the end of Chapter 8, or at least halfway through Chapter 8.
Yeah, one of the reasons...
There are other opportunities to get one, so it's not yet a huge deal.
Yeah, the reason you want to try and keep it is if you end up getting to a later section of the game where we're going to be, without spoiling, we're going to be doing some fun stuff. You'll end up generating money instead of SP, and it makes sure you just kind of have enough money throughout the run to buy everything you need from the shops. Just as mentioned, like all the shops in this game are based on the save terminal, so if you buy something, like that only can be got from that terminal after you bought it. So you can't just like buy a weapon power up and buy it at another save point. It'll only be at that save point.
Yeah, and that makes money routing in the later game also very interesting. Of course, if you have the SP dispenser in those later sections, you can easily get 200 essence. But if you lose it, you're a lot tighter on money, and you have to really choose where you want to buy stuff.
So we're going into the last shrine here, and this shrine is the Dragon Shrine. It's going to basically buff every single ability we've already gotten to be even better. They'll all have charged versions now, so you'll have like a charged Katana Slash, you'll have a charged Rising Fire, charged Pogo, everything. They all end up doing either more damage or just have like further utility. One of the main utilities that we're going to end up needing to go to a dragon for is actually to open level 3 gates from the charged Katana Slash, because without that we can't actually progress through some of the later chapters in the game. Otherwise, we could actually skip going to the Dragon Shrine entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, and one last thing we got from the Dragon Shrine, as you see here, is the double jump. After the dash, probably the best upgrade you get. And you can chain dash attacks and double jumps because the one refreshes the other.
Yeah, and that's...
So as long as there's stuff to dash through, you can keep going.
That's one of the best parts about it, is that like at this point now you really get to zoom, so you get to chain your dashes together like crazy, and just, you know, you can constantly do it because you're constantly regenerating your SP every time that you kill an enemy, so you end up seeing it a lot here. Now, I was also mentioning before, Outskirts is a really difficult chapter, but we're into Chapter 8 now, which is Return to Mecha City, and this chapter is incredibly long. This is like a 10-minute slogfest of screens. We have a section that we're going to have early on that's not so bad, which is what we're doing right now, but the section after a upcoming part here is going to be really hard. It has some of the hardest screens in the game.
Yeah, you saw Dion just buy the SP dispenser. He's basically coming up on the section we mentioned where it gives you money instead of SP. After this short cyber section.
Yeah, this is the last cyber section right here.
In any percent, anyway.
Yeah.
There's another one in 100%, but it takes too long for any percent, so you don't see it.
Yeah, there's even a couple little like special bosses you can fight in 100%, which is kind of cool. Managed to take the computer terminal out without any issues. You can die here if you get knocked into the the fire, because the fire is also an instant death, which can sometimes really suck, because like if you're trying to position to slash the computer terminal and you step a little too far forward, you just kind of fall to your death, and you're like, oh, well, whoops.
Yeah, so this is the second auto scroller of the game, the Exo Bike section. Again, lots of instant death spikes here, but also if you bump your wheel against the edge of one of these platforms, that's also instant death. So you really want to make sure you jump properly, you time them well, you don't die, basically.
Yeah, you really don't want to die here, because, like, you know, auto-scrollers take forever, and there's actually 2 auto-scroller sections in a row here. So if you die like at the end of this auto-scroller section, you go all the way back to the last checkpoint?
Yeah, the good thing about this section, at least, is that there's no instant death anymore. So this is... You can lower your guard a little bit here after this section.
Yeah,
Not too much.
all the enemy spawns are static for this too, so like once you've figured out where everything spawns, it's not so bad. And still safely take one more hit here. So as long as we don't take 2 hits, we will be just fine. Now clearly our little bike buddy Exo is going to be escorting us through the rest of the game, and we're going to be riding around on the motorbike for the rest of it, right?
Yeah, that's the dream. Sadly, our dream got interrupted a little bit too early, and we have to use our turtle shell airbag.
Looks like Exo's missing for now, but we'll see if we can find them real quick.
There is actually a very hard skip you can do here, where you basically just skip this wall entirely by lining up one of those green guys. So they're on top of the wall, and you can dash through it without having to kill.
Yeah, that was actually supposed to end up being fixed too. Like that was something that someone discovered pretty early, is that you can like kind of zip or clip through walls by using the dash through an enemy. And I think it was fixed for like most walls, but like those gates it still works on. So yeah, we have this this other Exo section here. Our motorbike is turned into a mech and is helping us traverse this section. The checkpoints here are pretty forgiving, so a lot of this is just going to be kind of holding right and going through as fast as you can, because there's a lot of health spare here. So now we have this airship boss. Comes down from the same spot every time, so all you gotta do is just kind of mash it down. Usually only takes three cycles, and they are taken down. And yeah, we got that right here. So Diane, clean fight.
Yeah. So the shots that Exo fires can also be charged. Yeah, those cinder blocks that Dion just jumped over was added in 1.04. I'm not entirely sure why these grayish blocks were added. I don't know what their purpose is. But this is basically the end of the Exo section. There's another checkpoint here. And now we'll meet up with our good friend Apparator again.
And we're going to take Apparator out, right? That's how it's going to work, right? He's going to stay with us forever, right? Just that Star Wars meme is like, everything's going to be fine, right? So yeah, unfortunately, F in the chat for Exo. Exo gets taken out by Apparator and ends up saving our life. We end up surviving with 1 HP. And Exo gets turned into a heap of scrap.
Yeah. So Dion still has 3 health on his SP dispenser here, which is incredible. He didn't get hit that entire section.
Yeah, there is an SP dispenser in the box since it's in that room, but when you don't have to pick it up, it saves you a bit of time, so it's really nice to get through there without taking any damage.
Yeah. So Dion does have like a lot of extra money. You saw him buy like the health refill there. Normally, runners either quit the menu or take a death to restore themselves to 5 HP. That's like one of the kindnesses of checkpoints. They don't restore your health completely, but they do restore to 5 HP.
I just want to take a moment and say that room was clean as heck, because that room is like honestly the most terrifying room right after doing the exo section.
Yeah.
Because if you end up like it's so easy to die. It really is, because you generally only have like 5 health unless you buy the health upgrade or like the health from the shop. And you only can take 2 hits before you die. So just getting through the room without taking any damage is really impressive.
Yeah, that was really clean. Now, you may have seen this room before. It is actually the same room as the first room in Chapter 3.
Yep, but now we have the ability to go through the gate, so that's where we're going.
Yeah. And one last section through basically Chapter 4 again, and then...
Ooh, went for the risky strat, going for the lower dash through. I really like that.
Yeah, that's incredibly risky. If you make a mistake there, you can just fall into the spikes and die.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. You can hit that from the other side of the wall?
Yeah, I think Dion actually was the one who found that a few weeks ago.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're kind of out of hot water now. That was those rooms there were some of the harder rooms that are the most concerning ones. And getting through those without any issues is honestly incredibly impressive, because this chapter, like I said, it's really long. And I don't think we took a single death through the entire chapter.
Yeah, no, I don't think either. Incredibly clean Chapter 8.
Yeah, so now we're entering Chapter 9, the Mecha City Docks. This is a pretty short chapter, actually. There's a couple difficult rooms in this one, but it ends up going by really quickly.
Yeah, I think Chapter 9 also does a really good job of like introducing these long hallways, but basically nothing below them. It does so. There's water below. You can swim, so you don't die immediately. But these mines in the water do a massive amount of damage.
Yeah, the mines are no joke.
Probably the most damage in the entire game.
I think
aside from instant death.
They hit for 4 damage, don't they? Or is it 4 or 5?
I think 5.
Yeah, like nothing else hits anywhere near that. I think the highest damage outside of that is only 3.
Yeah.
This room here is really tricky. I found this one actually to be the hardest one to do when I was playing through this my first time.
Yeah, those turrets that shoot these electric balls can really be annoying.
The power supply fans, as I like to call them.
Yeah. Nice dash dancing through that thing, and now unlocking the boat, the final auto-scroller of the game.
Yeah, so
again,
this is a weird auto-scroller. So the auto-scroller itself is pretty simple. You just generally kill enemies as they enter the screen by dashing into them. But then the end of the auto-scroller, correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think anyone's discovered why this happens. The auto-scroller at the end can either end very quickly or take like an additional 10, like 12 seconds for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, there's been a few theories as to why it is, but I don't think we've had like conclusive evidence for any of them.
I like having the little hopper just hop itself off the boat. That's funny.
Yeah, I think Dion does it like again with the final enemy where he just rolls off. I think that one takes a little bit more setup, so I don't know if he'll do it, but it's also fun to see.
Alright, so this should be the last enemy here.
Yeah, he's gonna try it.
That's hilarious. So yeah, like right here. Okay, he ended up getting a fast boat, but sometimes you can just have it so that the boat just takes way longer to transition.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most frustrating time losses because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's just completely out of your control. So we're gonna end up picking up another SP dispenser here, and we're going into just a very quick boss of Combinatron. So this one here, you're supposed to take out the hands before you take out the head, because the hands will end up healing the head. But if you space out your damage just right, you can end up taking out Combinatron before the hands start to heal, and Dyanketo managed to get that just perfectly.
Yeah, he was really close to healing, but Dion was just fast enough to avoid that. Most runners will just take a death there, because if he does start healing, he'll start healing like way longer than a reset will take.
That big empty room we just passed by there, you might not have noticed it, but we actually skipped the cutscene there by jumping over where... Geez, I actually forget the robot's name.
Either Elgion or Legion.
Yeah, Elgion. That's it, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. Some say Elgion, some say Legion.
But if you don't jump over that, Elgion will end up talking to you and wasting some time, and we don't want that, so...
Very nice room there. Those dashing through those turrets can be really awkward.
Now this room is, to me, a little scary. It's a simple enough room, but if you end up actually dying here, one of the lanterns you dash through will not be there anymore if you've already dashed through it. And it can mess up your room entirely, because generally you're planning on dashing through it to just keep chaining your dashes through, right?
Yeah, like I know that happens, but even still, sometimes I just don't realize that lantern isn't there anymore.
Yeah, it can definitely end up causing like a series of chain deaths if you forget about it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming into the next boss here, and I'm actually not too familiar with the current strats for this. So if you are, you're going to take it away on this one.
Yeah, there is a really tight quick kill you can do, but basically doing enough damage for like his first attack, you can kind of like force his eye open for the second attack. And Spider Rail will shoot these rings, these onion rings as some people call them. Didn't get the quick kill, so he just reset.
Yeah, looks like Diane accidentally got turned around there. Happens sometimes.
Yeah, but basically, if the big eye shoots these rings, you can parry all of them at once, and it will do a massive amount of damage and get the quick kill. It's really tight though.
Oh no, one more health.
Oh. Yeah. Has the money to buy some SP refills, so...
Yeah, everything is fine. Everything is fine.
Yeah.
It can be a lot worse if you don't end up getting the SP for this fight, because you end up using a lot of SP for this.
Yeah. But like ideally you want to parry as much of these rings as possible.
Oh no!
Oh. Dion here in a bit of a death loop here.
Yeah, this boss is pretty relentless. Like, even when I was running this, there was a lot of times where I would just like kind of chain die on this boss if I made enough mistakes, and it's such a weird boss too, because you have to do damage at like exact moments to make sure the eye is open at the correct time, and just a bunch of stuff. And everything here hurts. Like everything here hits for 3 damage. And these mini eyes are taking Diane to town right now. Rude spider indeed.
Did get the eye open for the quick kill. Sadly did not get any parries off.
Yeah, the parries are they're pretty tricky to get. You're trying to actually parry like all the projectiles that are fired at the same time. Finally gets spider rail down. Managing to get out of that death loop. Got a pretty quick elevator too, though.
Yeah, there's a little bit of RNG there too on how long the elevator takes to actually spawn the door there.
Now for the actual hardest room of the game. So, like, it's a pretty short room, but there's a lot that goes into this room to make it work right. Because there's a lot of enemies that move around and can generally just be a very big nuisance. See if...
These fearful enemies also like follow your position and just try to shoot you.
Yeah, and they'll also actually actively avoid you too. Like, there's depending on like how their AI is acting, they'll like try and get away from you if you try and get close to them. So
so if you try them to use them as pogo platforms, sometimes they just refuse and move away.
They're just like, oh, you want to go up? I'm going to move out of the way, so you fall all the way back down.
Yeah. Luckily, you got through there without too much trouble. Has enough money to buy both the SP refill and the SP generator. And now on to the final boss of the game.
Wow, the final boss is Apparator all along?
Yeah. Very nice start there with the dash dancing.
And the final boss is taken down. So, Apparator thought he could do it, but just couldn't. Oh, but wait, what's this? Alright, yeah, so this is actually a multi-phase fight. We have the first phase of Progenitor now. So we're going to open up the Progenitor and attack the core, which is Progenitor himself. Try and get some parries in to get as much damage as possible off of the projectiles that are caused by the enemy. And really clean fight.
Yep. Don't think he got hit there.
Now we have one last part here. We're going to free up the left and middle orbs that are going to be useful for doing damage to the boss in a little bit here. And then do damage to Progenitor himself. And we're going to leave that third core on the right. Because it doesn't end up doing much to really help us.
Yeah, it spawns platforms, but like we use it as a platform, so we don't need the platforms it spawns.
Yeah, it actually ends up being way more useful as like a pogo platform than it ends up being as a regular platform, which is kind of funny. And one more hit. And that's Progenitor.
Yeah, that's the first G of the run.
So at this point, the run is pretty much done. We just have to kind of do a little bit of cutscene stuff. And story-wise, I think we end up turning into like the lightning elemental, if I recall correctly. Okay, and we're gonna be going to story-wise spoilers, free the master.
Yeah, this final section after the final boss takes roughly a minute and a half. It can be a bit faster if you have SP, so you can trigger some of these switches slightly earlier, but in general, roughly a minute and a half is what it takes.
It is actually possible to soft lock here too, which can really suck if you're on like a good pace and then you accidentally manage to soft lock on the last set of switches. So there's going to be there's going to be a set of 4 switches at the bottom of this screen we're about to drop into. And if you hit 2 of them at the exact same time with shurikens, the game doesn't know what to do about that. And you can't hit the final switch as a result. It doesn't activate.
Yeah, it'll think you only hit 3 switches. And because there's no 4th switch anymore, you can't activate the last switch.
And time.
Oh. Yeah.
So yeah, really,
GG to Dyan.
GG Dyan, and it was a really impressive run. Ended up with a 106.39, which is really good. Like, if I'm being honest with you, a 106, like getting a sub hour was like a huge goal for me when I was like pushing this run here, and it took a long time to actually get to that point. And a 106 in a marathon setting is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, this is still really, really close to his PB, I think. Only a minute something. So doing that such a time in a marathon setting is really good. But yeah, that was Cyber Shadow.
That was awesome. Well, GG to the runner. Do we have any final plugs or messages maybe before we get ready for intermission?
Yeah, so we're just gonna let Dyanketo do some shoutouts here. Just go ahead when you're ready.
Just testing the mic. Is it working?
Yep, mic is good.
Okay, yeah, because it didn't work earlier. I just wanted to thank the Cyber Shadow community. Wanted to thank Carter for giving me the opportunity, and DJ for saving my hide again. You guys are all amazing. Keep up the great work. I love you all. This is basically Cyber Shadow in a nutshell. So I hope you had fun watching, and that'll be all for me.
Alrighty. We will be. Do you want to take it away, Tally, for just getting us ready for intermission?
Absolutely. And before we do, we did actually get a donation towards the end of the run as well. I just didn't want to interrupt because it looked like it was high octane gameplay going on. But we did get $5 from Manix86. He says, "I'm super excited for this morning block and Sunday in general. Good luck to everyone and wishing all computers to not die. Putting this towards Spectre Knight and the Shovel Knight showdown." So, to everyone who's watching, you can do !D in the chat to get our donation link for Tiltify and also check out the remaining incentives. But for now, we will be going to intermission to get ready for a Rockman and Fort race between Working and Ahmad. So, while we do that, please take a moment to make sure you hydrate and stretch, and we will be right back.